The race starts at 3:30 p.m. on Fox Eastern.
This is a good track for you.
Is it?
6 straight top 10 finishes.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
But that 88 is pulling away.
Earnhardt, Johnson, Menard, Blaney, third-generation star Dale Earnhardt Jr. brings him to the flag. Checkered flag waving. It's over. It's Earnhardt. Earnhardt trying to cover all spots.
Oh, yeah! Good job, Junebug.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. Checkered flag at Talladega.
Why is this one so much fun? Because your grin told so many stories on your cool-down lap.
It's just real emotional. I haven't won here in a long time. It was my daddy's birthday a couple days ago. Just real emotional, man.
My nerd world.
Oh, my.
And welcome, Dale Earnhardt Jr. fans, to the Race Preview Podcast as we look at Phoenix as the West Coast swing continues. I'm your host, John Justice. Another look at Dale Earnhardt Jr. We'll look back a bit at Las Vegas. I was a little bit off of my prediction from last week. We'll take a look at a bit of merchandise news for this week. I have actually a really special offer I found today, actually, and I took advantage of it. We'll get to that. Plus, we will talk Phoenix. Junior has a fast car again this weekend. Have a lot of confidence going into this weekend. We have this amazing Flashpoint Exalta 88 paint scheme that Dale Jr. is running. I can't even tell you how much I love this paint scheme. We'll talk a bit about that. Plus, I have a very special bonus for this Dale Jr. Race Preview Podcast. I had a chance to sit down and interview. Well, he didn't sit with me. He called in. But I had a chance to interview retired NASCAR Hall of Famer driver Mark Martin. So at the end of the podcast, once I'm done talking Dale Jr. and giving my prediction for Dale Jr.'s chances at a victory on Sunday, I will play. It's about 10 minutes long, my interview with Mark Martin, and I'll explain how that came about at the end of the podcast. First, let's talk just briefly about this paint scheme. I really liked last year's Exalta paint scheme. And obviously with Dale Jr. picking up this, it was DuPont and then it became Exalta. It was Jeff Gordon's primary sponsor. With Dale Jr. picking up this sponsor, it provided the opportunity for some unique paint schemes. And I've talked about it a ton on the podcast before, and Dale Jr. has made mention of it many times that he's a big fan of paint schemes. He wants to, when he gets in the car, he wants to be getting into a race car that he likes. And last year's paint scheme was cool. I liked the red fade to orange and yellow. I thought it was neat. Wasn't anything too crazy, but I thought it was cool. This year's paint scheme, what they're calling Flashpoint, is just, that car is just incredible looking. And on the track, as a die cast, on a t-shirt, that car just looks great. And it's about as fast as it looks. I'll get to the practice speeds and how Dale Jr. did in qualifying and practice. And again, my prediction a little bit later on. But this particular paint scheme, and then I'll let it go, is quickly, heading to the top of my favorite Dale Jr. Paint schemes. And the opportunity to see this thing in Victory Lane on Sunday, that would just be absolutely amazing, apart from seeing Dale Jr. in Victory Lane, obviously.
Oh, my.
Now, looking back at Las Vegas last weekend, was not the finish that I had thought Dale Jr. was headed for. I thought the car was much faster in practice than what he ended up showing during the race. One thing, and again, this is just my opinion, listening to the in-car audio, looking at the results of the race, there seems to be a bit of a confidence issue going on right now. Look, and that is completely and absolutely 100% understood based off of the fact that Dale Jr. wasn't even racing for half the season and what he went through with his concussion recovery. But it seems pretty clear that he has been playing it very, very cautious. There was a tire issue early on, and Dale Jr. did a really, really good job of explaining it in his podcast, the Dale Jr. download earlier this week, about running the top. You don't want to go to the top too early, especially in Vegas, because if there aren't cars that are running up there, then the opportunity of wearing the tires out. And early on in the race, There was a slight tire issue, and it was pretty clear that Dale Jr. wasn't really pushing the envelope. He wasn't pressing the issue. That's not to say he wasn't running as hard as he could run. That's not to say if you asked him, he wouldn't say as much. But I just got the sense that he wasn't quite where he needed to be. And I think, and we'll see if he's over it this weekend, and I'll explain here in a moment, but I think he needed a few races to get himself back up to speed. And the fact that he didn't walk out of Daytona with a finish, the fact that he didn't walk out of Atlanta with a finish, Las Vegas ended up becoming the first race that they actually completed. And maybe they just needed to put one together. Maybe that's what it was. I mean, because it has to be difficult coming back from that concussion recovery to start the season, and then you open the first two seasons with DNFs, essentially. So hopefully Las Vegas was the race that got Junior his footing, and now he can begin to march forward. But it was pretty clear that the focus seemed to be, and again, this is just my perspective. That's not to say he wasn't running as hard as he could, but it is to say that there seemed to be a level of focus of let's finish on the lead lap, let's get a decent finish, and then let's move on to the next one. It's like, and he even said as much at the end of the race. Dale Jr. even mentioned that, hey, we got this one done, we finished the end of the race, and Greg Ives said the same thing. So you look at Phoenix, and we'll get to this in a moment. You look at Phoenix, you look at the opportunity in Phoenix with the car that he has, and Phoenix now becomes a very important race, in my opinion, because now we get to see, all right, where is he at? Where is his head at? How confident is he now? And he's got a fast car. What is he going to do with it? Is he going to go and push the envelope now? And look, there is something to be said for playing as someone cautious. You don't want to end up with another DNF and get yourself further in the points this early in the season. Begin to work your way up. They finished high enough in both stages in Las Vegas to get a handful of points, so that helped out quite a bit. So Phoenix is becoming really, really important. The good news is, however, is that he's got a fast car. So if he wants to push it, he can push it. And I think we're going to know at the end of Sunday's race where Dale Jr. and his head is at. And this is obviously provided that everything goes the right way. The pit crew does their job. We don't have any penalties. We end up having a clean race, and it's all just about how fast is the car and how hard does Junior drive it. So before I get to what practice looked like for Dale Earnhardt Jr., let me talk just briefly about some merchandise, and some really cool merchandise news, actually.
Oh, my.
So at DaleJr.com, well, first off, at NASCAR.com, I looked at it today. No new merchandise that I can see, apart from what I mentioned last week. At DaleJr.com, however, for the weekend, they do have 30% off of an Exalta T-shirt. It's gray with the print of the car on the back and the a stylized logo and stuff in the front. It is a really, really nice looking T-shirt. I'm really particular about my Dale Jr. shirts, and as I mentioned before, I wear the gear for whatever car he's running, and I have an Exalta Flashpoint 88 T-shirt, but this one was a really nice looking T-shirt, and at that price, I think it was like $15 before shipping. To get that good of a Dale Jr. shirt at that price is kind of unheard of unless you're buying a knockoff. So if you don't have an Exalta shirt yet for this paint scheme, and you've been thinking about buying one, I think it goes through the weekend. Again, right now at DaleJr.com, there's 30% off. It's right there on the homepage when you click to it. So I just wanted to make sure that I took a moment to mention that, because those types of deals don't happen very often, and I don't get paid by DaleJr.com. Again, I'm just the fan, and I like to make sure that people know, hey, there's a good deal out there if you're looking to get some gear, or maybe you haven't purchased a Dale Jr. shirt because they do run too much. This is a good opportunity to grab yourself a nice one. So again, that's at DaleJr.com.
Oh, my.
All right, let's move over to Phoenix. And I'm moving through the podcast pretty quickly because there's not a ton to say. Dale Jr. qualified third, had a great qualifying run, and I thought for a moment, that there was a chance that he was going to actually get the pole, but, unfortunately, Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano ended up snaking it away from us. But he's starting up front, so we don't have to worry about track position and moving up through the field, which has been kind of an Achilles heel for this team. Dale Jr. not qualifying great makes it tough, especially at a place like Phoenix where it's easy to go laps down. When you've got to spend half the race moving yourself up into the top 5, the fact that he qualified third is good news. The better news is in both the practices on Saturday. Second practice on Saturday, first practice, second practice overall, and final practice, Dale Jr.'s got one of the fastest car. He's sitting up there in the top, was 5 and 7 in lap times. Let me get this back up just real quick so I don't screw this up. So when you look at he was third in top 10 consecutive lap averages in first practice on Saturday, and then in happy hour he was sitting in 7th, I believe, right? Yeah, 7th. And when you look at who was around him in the lap speeds, Clint Boyer, Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski, Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth, he's in good company. He's got a fast car. And I'm fairly certain that this is the same car that Alex Bowman ran at the in the I guess the fall race in the fall race that he almost ended up winning with. So the car is really good. Junior's got a lot of confidence. And as I said before, I kind of pay attention to, what he says on and off the track. And in all the interviews this weekend, he's been really positive. And he's been, it seems like he's been in a really good mood. He's not down about, the last week, and certainly not the way the season started. So hopefully, again, with Las Vegas behind them now, and a fast race car, with him behind the wheel on Sunday, he can come out of here with a great finish. So for my prediction this week, does he have a car that's fast enough to win? Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. Qualifying third, that quick in both, consistently quick in both practices, he absolutely has a car to win. Based off of the competition, and especially those that have been so consistent, like Kevin Harvick, in Phoenix, it's going to be a tough race tomorrow. He's going to really have to, their gray guys in the team are going to have to really dial it in. They're going to have just flawless pit stops. So for my prediction for Sunday, I'm going to go with a top 5 again. I was almost going to say top 10, but the car just looks so fast. We'll know pretty early on, and I'll have a pretty good idea pretty early on where Junior's head is at. If he's able to maintain that, keep the car at the front. Phoenix is notoriously kind of tough to pass. He is really good there. They did test there, too, when he was cleared to go and race again. So he has a car that's capable of winning. He's won there before, but I think he'll walk out of there with a top 5 come the end of the race on Sunday. And I'm excited, man. I'm excited again. I was excited for Vegas last week, but it was pretty clear when the race started that it wasn't going to go the way that we kind of had wanted it to go. The things just didn't fall where they needed to fall, and it seemed like there was a confidence issue going on there. So hopefully with that race under their belt, they can move forward now, and he can begin to take advantage of having these fast cars. So I'm really hoping for, again, a top 5 in Phoenix. All right, let me move over not move over. Let's switch gears a bit, and I want to play you this interview that I did. This was really exciting. So there's an event going on here in Minneapolis this weekend called World of Wheels, and one of the promotions people had come to me, and they know that I'm a NASCAR fan with the radio show that I do. I host a radio show Monday through Friday, a news talk show, 6 to 9 a.m., Justice and Drew here on Twin Cities News Talk. TwinCitiesNewsTalk.com if you were interested in checking it out. So they wanted to do some promotion for this World of Wheels event, and Mark Martin has an appearance there today, actually. And so they asked me if I wanted to interview him. So the funny sidebar to this whole thing is that I said, yeah, absolutely. I was a big fan of Mark Martin. And you'll hear in the interview, I talk a little bit about how Mark Martin was kind of my introduction into NASCAR. So I'd given them details to do this interview, and I never got confirmation that we were going to do the interview. It was supposed to take place right after the show on Wednesday. So the show ends, and we have our producer Samantha, and then my fellow host Drew, and the phone's ringing. The show's over, and the phone's ringing, and Sam's not answering the phone, and Drew starts giving her a hard time. He's like, "Why aren't you answering the phone?" She goes, "The show's over. I don't want to answer the phone." she's just being dumb. She's a little sarcastic. She's great, but she's a little sarcastic. So